Not about Europe, but about Ethiopia. It's more than just a premonition. There's been at least one major massacre documented since the start of the month. Troops making their way north this Friday towards Tigray. This after the expiration of an ultimatum to the rebel province and the Ethiopian Prime Minister's announcement of an all-out offensive. Tigrayans make up a little over 5% of Ethiopia's population, but for decades after the 1991 fall of the Mengistu regime, under the leadership of Meles Zenawi, they held the levers of power. Now it's come to a head, with last year's Nobel Peace Laureate Abiy Ahmed talking of a move on Mekelle, the regional capital, with thousands fleeing across the Sudanese border.
ሰላም ዘይምህላ ሃገር በጣም ዝሕዝን በጣም ዘጨና ነገር አንቀጣ ኮይኑ ዳ እንታይ ምንም ዝገብሮ ነገር የብለኝ ታይሞ
Patrick Smith, there's a feeling of helplessness. There's already been one major massacre, tens of thousands who've fled across borders, more have been displaced, and it looks like it could get worse. What can we do about it?
Well, what the African Union is doing, and sadly, belatedly, is to try to engage the government in Addis Ababa. So you had these three African Union envoys today meeting with Abiy Ahmed in Addis. That's the former president of Liberia, former president of Mozambique, both of whom have lived through their own terrible civil war, so they know about what they're talking. They didn't seem to get very far. What they were trying to do was to get Abiy to call some sort of ceasefire so there can be an engagement. And so far, the Ethiopian government line has been, well, any sort of ceasefire is just going to give the Tigray ruling party, the Tigray people's, the chance to kind of get off the hook and just bog it all down in talks. At the end of the day, they say they're targeting the TPLF rather than the Tigray region as itself. But unfortunately, the 5 million people you talk about are going to have been drawn into this war. Mekelle, the capital that the federal troops from Addis Ababa are marching on, normally has a population of about 500,000. We're hearing that there's several 100,000 people more. So there are more and more civilian lives at risk. So I think if the AU attempts at mediation fail, what you're going to see is some sort of push from the United Nations. But at the moment, what I think the last point I wanted to make, but I think is an important one, is a divided international diplomatic effort with the EU saying, yes, you must have a ceasefire. Yes, there must be some sort of mediation to bring this conflict to a halt as soon as possible. And the United States government, in the form of Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, and Tibor Naj, the Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, actually saying, no, the federal forces are absolutely right. They should be allowed to finish this off, and we support them. So the international response is very inchoate at the moment. So no immediate action looks like it's on the horizon.
A split international community, Vivian Walt, and an Ethiopian prime minister who says, thanks for showing interest, but this is a domestic problem.
Well, what's amazing, of course, as Patrick pointed out, is that it's only a year since he won the Nobel Peace Prize. So, and here he is kind of with the stance as if, you know, we have to defeat the TPLF and seeing this really as an existential threat to his country. And essentially turning away offers of negotiating some sort of a peace deal. So, I mean, I think what we're staring at really is a kind of looming humanitarian crisis, or, you know, I guess one that is already unfolding, but that looks like it could get a lot worse with, you know, the Red Cross reporting that they have set ambulances on fire and that they're running out of medicines. This could be really very, very bad.
And when you see that there was this massacre that took place, Piraski, at the start of the month in Mai Kadra, which targeted Tigrayans, and there have been reports of massacres in the other direction. Neither side seeming to want to stand down at this point. Some are saying this could be another Rwanda. Is that an exaggeration?
I think the comparison that is maybe more relevant would be with Yugoslavia, because, you know, we have Ethiopia is an empire, or was an empire, but still has the shape and the composition of an empire, and what could be at stake is the unraveling of the different regions and the fabric of the whole country. And I think that explains the very tough attitude of Abiy Ahmed, which obviously contradicts his initial steps when he was elected at the head of the government, because he was seen as a liberal. He released political prisoners. He opened the economy. He made peace with Eritrea. And all of a sudden, we have the face of a leader who is taking ruthless decisions, because that's my maybe analysis is that he doesn't want Ethiopia to unravel, and he wants to make a stop with Tigray, that you cannot just split from the country.
Is there room for compromise the way you set it out there?
Not really, no. I think both the history, the fact that the TPLF was in power for so long and has fallen out with Abiy Ahmed, and what is at stake, which is the unity of the country, and the fact that Abiy Ahmed doesn't want the Tigray precedent to serve other parts of the country, like the Somaliland or whatever, the Somali region and so on. There could be really, including Abiy Ahmed's own ethnic group, the Oromos, which have been really demonstrating against the central power in recent months. And I think that doesn't leave much room for compromise or for negotiations.
Barbie Lazzanado, seen from the former colonial power Italy, that prospect of Ethiopia unraveling, is that something people are contemplating?
Well, you know, it is part of the discussion here, because situations like this always produce a lot of refugees who are on the move, who inevitably try to enter the European Union through Italy. So there is obviously going to be a sort of, you know, backroom deal trying to be made in terms of the negotiations and trying to broker peace by the European Union. But a lot of that is simply because they don't want to have to deal with a humanitarian crisis that has already unfolded, but it's just going to get worse as the crisis there continues.
One final word on this, Patrick Smith. We're in that strange period right before Inauguration Day in the United States. You mentioned Tibor Nagy, who himself is a former ambassador to Ethiopia. Does it all change after January 20th?
Well, it's already looking like that, because what is remarkable about the briefing that Tibor Nagy gave last week, at the same time, Joe Biden's new national security advisor put out a statement expressing grave unease about what was going on in Ethiopia and raising the specter of petitions about war crimes and the humanitarian crisis, which he, in backing the UN system, raised as a major, a looming disaster, in fact, and saying that there would be efforts to hold people to account. So it seems that even within the US, the Biden team has a very different view on this to the outgoing Trump team.
Well, speaking of the Trump team, we had this quote from the President of the United States, the outgoing president: "We're like a third world country."